With me is Maria Theresa. She is the Vice Minister in the Philippines Foreign Ministry. She's here in India for the political consultations and strategic dialogue. Ma'am, welcome to WION. It's a pleasure to have you here in Delhi. And my first question to you is about the bilateral relationship and area which you look into. How do you see India-Philippines bilateral relationship at a time when we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of this relationship?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I can only say and describe it in two words. The relations between the Philippines and India is on an upward trajectory. Our presence here for the 14th political consultations and strategic dialogue is already a manifestation of the strong political, economic, as well as socio-cultural relations with India. And I have quite a big delegation with me, including defense from the Department of National Defense, as well as other agencies concerned.
Ma'am, this is the 75th year of the diplomatic relationship. Anything big we are expecting in terms of new initiatives? How do you plan to celebrate the anniversary year?
Well, that is something that I will leave with our ambassador here in Delhi, and I think that will also be, you have a new ambassador in Manila, and I think this will be more or less their mandate, and to do this 75th anniversary, something that will leave a mark in a number of in various aspects of our relations. But indeed, it is very important because India is probably one of the most important as well as long-time established diplomatic relations.
Ma'am, you're holding the political consultations here, the strategic dialogue as well. What will be the key focus? What will be the agenda like in terms of conversation between the two sides, issues that will be discussed? We know this is a relationship which is increasingly becoming very substantive, whether it's trade, whether it's defense, whether it's people-to-people relationship. The initiatives your embassy here has taken in terms of the visa system is something that is much talked about.
Well, you mentioned some of it. I think when you ask me what this is what these consultations are, this is the whole gamut of political, economic, socio-cultural, people-to-people particularly, which is probably the driving force in our relations, the people-to-people relations. So, and of course, in the strategic dialogue, there's a lot of defense discussions, as well as, of course, the regional, international issues that are happening around the world. So I can only say that's the whole gamut of our relations.
Ma'am, we have seen high-level engagement between the two sides. We saw the Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, traveling to Philippines, and he made a very interesting comments that basically is backing the arbitration award of 2016 as well. How do you see those comments by the Indian side?
Well, that was a very welcoming comment from the Foreign Secretary. It is very important to us, and we thank the Indian government for the kind of support that is given us by stating that on the support of the arbitral award. This is very important to us because the anchor of our foreign policy with regards to the South China Sea is the 1982 UNCLOS, United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, and the 2016 arbitral award. So the statement that has been given by the Indian government is indeed very important to us.
Ma'am, Philippines is also the country coordinator when it comes to India-ASEAN relationship. You specifically take care of ASEAN as well. So as a country coordinator, what elements you're looking forward to in terms of how India can engage with the ASEAN grouping?
Well, we just started the coordinatorship this July, and we're now preparing for the summit that will be held in Vientiane from 8 to 10 October. Definitely President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be present, and of course I am sure the Prime Minister will also be there. But I think what is important here is a lot of functional cooperation, and as well as the political and economic aspects. There will, if my recollection is correct, there will be 2 outcome documents that will come out, and we are now working and these documents that will play a very important role as well as a document for the summit, the ASEAN summit this October.
Ma'am, in the ASEAN grouping, there are few challenges as well. One is particular to Myanmar, and essentially, how is the policy of your country over that?
Well, there are various points there. One is we support the 5-point consensus. It has been our policy that we are of the view that Myanmar should really talk, I mean, all the stakeholders involved in this situation should get to talk to each other. We also believe that, and we have to support and really support the humanitarian aspect. I think the Myanmar people are having their difficulties and challenges, and therefore the humanitarian aspect is very important to us. And but we would like to play a more important role, and we are just looking into this matter as time progresses.
I'm coming to the bilateral aspect of the relationship. Essentially, one pillar that has emerged is defense. Now, India gave the Brahmos missiles to your country. How do you see this as?
Well, for very specific matters, I leave it to our Department of National Defense. But I think the acquisition of Brahmos is a very important aspect of the national defense acquisition, and I think this will be part of our deterrent capabilities of our present situation, and this will be an important aspect of our defense and security issue.
There is more plans in terms of defense engagement. There are reports saying that Philippines plans to get a lot of defense assets like helicopters from India. There is a lot of cooperation when it comes to the coast guards of the two countries. So what do you have to say on that?
Well, I leave this thing. I'm not very particular, not very knowledgeable about these acquisitions. During the strategic dialogue, we have somebody from our Department of National Defense who may be in a better position to state that.
Ma'am, coming to your region, one of the big worries emerging from your region is the Chinese aggressive actions, particularly with the Filipino vessels. We have seen those visuals of the Chinese vessels ramming into your vessels. What do you have to say about that as to what is the current situation on the ground, in fact, on the sea right now?
Well, thank you for that question. It was just last weekend that there was really a number of incidents which happened. It is the position of the Philippines that despite these incidents, of course, our operational agencies are very much aware of this. However, we do not discount, and we will continue to also go to that aspect of a diplomatic solution. We are on that matter because, but of course, without prejudice to the position of the Philippines, and that is of the decision that area is within our exclusive economic zone, and therefore we have every right to be there. But there's no discount on the possible discussions or political solution, or at least a political discussion on this matter.
But ma'am, do you see the situation getting more worrisome? Because almost for months now we have seen the same repetition happening there at that location.
I want to bring you back to the second Thomas Shoal. At the second Thomas Shoal, we had some kind of conditional arrangement with China on how to deal with that shoal. This is where the ship Sierra Madre was beached. But due to some diplomatic discussions, we were able to have some conditional arrangement. Now, there is this another issue now on the Sabina Shoal, and again, despite those incidents that happened, we still think that we cannot discount some possible diplomatic discussions.
That's a very optimistic view when it comes to China, because India is also facing the aggressive actions by the Chinese. But essentially, when it comes to the situation there, have you spoken about the situation with your partners, with your allies?
Oh, definitely. We have our only treaty ally, the United States, and we have like-minded countries who have been supporting us on this matter. They've been giving us very important statements of support. I'm sure you've been reading about it, and we do not want this issue to escalate, and therefore I may sound optimistic, but that's optimism is something that one should also look at. But in this particular matter, we cannot. It's very important to for any accidental situation that might happen. So there is a lot of still. It is our view that a diplomatic discussion is still something that can be dealt with.
India, of course, when it comes to global issues, has been emphasizing on dialogue and diplomacy. But when it comes to this specific issue, you said you have discussed with your partners. Have you discussed with India?
Well, I think to a certain extent, we've been talking to your people, your embassy in Manila. They're aware of certain moves that we're making, because you're our allies, you're our friends, you're the like-minded partners of the Philippines.
When it comes to India being seen, India is a growing market, and a lot of Indian tourists are traveling across the world. How do you plan to get more Indian tourists?
Well, that's a very good question, and we have just been talking to my colleagues here, particularly the ambassador, and that is really the e-visa. We're going to fully launch it, and because I think it's very important that we also capture a good number of Indian tourists to go to visit the Philippines, and vice versa. So that is the position that we have taken, and perhaps there may be other innovations that we can come out with.
But I believe there is no direct flight between India and Philippines. How much is a worry for that? Have you spoken to the Indian side that they should be start?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that because the connectivity is very important, and therefore I think we have some air services agreement coming out. It's part of all these political consultations, as well as hopefully, I think it's a matter of time, but we will have some direct flights. I think it's Manila, Delhi. So we'll see. It's sometimes our agencies are still studying and making certain, but we are focusing on that, because what is this visas for if the connectivity is poor? And I think it is up to us to strengthen our connectivity.
Ma'am, we have spoken to on so many areas, connectivity, direct flights, the tourist as well. But any other area you're looking forward where cooperation can be increased, especially area like space, because there have been murmurs about more cooperation on space.
Well, the Philippine Space Agency, a very, very new agency of the government that was established during the time of President Marcos, has already started having discussions or even a possible MoU with your space agency, and they're looking at the Indian Space Agency as one of those agencies that can really assist us in our issues. I mean, the things that can be done through space. So there's a lot of activities that they're coming up with, and I think this is the new development. All these things that are happening in space is a lot of direction and impact back by their agriculture, or climate change, and so forth and so on.
Ma'am, my final question to you is again about the India-Philippines relationship. Your final words as to where do you see this relationship going forward? We've already seen so much of engagement. In fact, if we talk about the Philippines reports here in India, how the relationship has been going forward in last 1 year, I can say that there has been a lot of talk about the relationship, how it has been going in a very positive trajectory.
Well, as you have reiterated, having a positive and upward trajectory, I can only say that the relations between our two countries will still move upward, and with a possible exchange of visits of high government officials, then it will take its greater heights. And I think it's about time. 75 years is really a monumental number of years of relations, and it has no way but to go up. And we're looking forward to such an expansion and strengthening of our relations.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, ma'am, for
Thank you
speaking
very
with
much.
WION. Thank you, ma'am.